All right, so we're looking at a 2014 Ford Fusion with a 2.0 today. We have a coolant leak. We had a problem here. We bought a kit on Amazon to test the pressure, but the threaded cap that fits on there was letting the pressure leak out. So we had to get a special adapter here that threads on that would fit to the kit. We'll put the links for those in the description. Now the problem is that we have the coolant leaking out. We aren't exactly sure where from. So we're just pumping it up, about 15 PSI. The cap says that it's rated for 21 PSI. So 15 should put us close. So what we've done here is we're having problems seeing where we're leaking out from up top. So we've jacked up the car. Before jacking up the car, we took off the skid plate, which is how many?
11 bolts.
11 T9. Is that right? Possibly T9 Torx bolts.
Yes.
We're unsure. Figure it out. So we've
Test a
taken
few.
that off, and then under here, under the passenger side, we noted on the last oil change dripping that's coming back on the oil pan, and we're getting dripping down here right under the passenger side. So we're unsure of where it's coming from. It ends up being a steady drip with time. Is it dripping out yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. So we'll come back to that in a second, but we've inspected, let me get a light on it. We've inspected all around here, the hoses, the fittings, the tees, everything like that don't seem to be leaking. We have a coolant hose up there that goes in, but looking under there, it does appear to be dry. Under the thermostat housing here, you probably can't see it on camera, but there is some dripping under there as well that we think is probably going down and dripping around. So our guess right now is for the thermostat. So we believe this to be the right fit based on the auto parts store. Once we determine that, we'll go ahead and put a link for that in the description as well.
Alright, and as you can see, it is now dripping coolant off of the oil pan here. And we just placed a rag here to collect it.
Alright, so what we want to do here is get this out of the way, this sensor plug, so that way we can go ahead and get these coolant clamps off. So what we've gone ahead and done, these plastic clips are pretty breakable, so you got to be careful. But right in there, there's a little tab. Come around from over the top if you can. There you go. So right in there, there's a little tab. We just took the screwdriver, pried that out, and then pulled on the housing itself, not the wires associated with it. So now we can kind of just tuck that nicely out of the way and move on with the coolant hoses. While you're, just keep that going for a second. So, we have a selection here. These hoses tend to work, or these pliers, they have a nice long handle. They have an angled grip, so we'll see which one of those we can maybe use to get in there and get a couple of these off. Now, we're gonna have to figure out how we're gonna handle the coolant once it gets off, but for now we're just gonna go ahead and slide the sleeve off of there. So I'm gonna try this one actually upside down and see if maybe I can get right on the tooth of it there. And let me try. These have a little steeper pitch. Let me see if that's better or worse for us.
Celebrating 40 years of rockin' Kansas City.
All right, so we've got a flexible funnel down here. We don't know if this is gonna work or not, because it's probably gonna splash out too much, now that I think about it. So let's try to actually get this under here. Can you wedge it under the hose itself?
Let's see now.
Yeah, let's try it this way. Can you get the light up there a little higher? Alright, so this probably isn't the best way to do this, but we're gonna try just to wedge this under here and try to get the coolant going down that way. We've kind of worked the hose loose a little bit. Obviously we aren't worried about the thermostat housing, we're replacing that. We obviously don't want to mar the any component of the engine or the hose, because we want to reuse the hose if possible. So I'm just going to work it off this barb. Watch the camera, watch your eyes, and then your biggest thing is the second that pops off, just try to shift that right under there. Okay?
Okay.
Ready? It's almost there. You ready?
Yep. Okay.
Under there. So are you still recording?
Yeah.
We've got a pan down here and it's catching some of it. I don't want to say most of it, but oh shit, yeah, there's plenty. Can you push it back anymore? If we can, I can kind of.
Yeah, there it is.
There. We want it to go down that way. So if you can find a way to drain the coolant, I recommend doing so, because this is kind of a mess. In our case, this just seemed easier than draining the coolant. We may blow some compressed air over everything, maybe try to rinse it out a little bit. But as of right now, we've got that top hose off. We're gonna let that drain down for a minute, and then we'll work on getting the bottom hose off and then be back to take the thermostat assembly out. All right, so we're just getting this bottom hose off now. Work this bottom hose loose a little bit with a screwdriver. We've got our focus. We've got our flexible funnel in there to try to catch any residual we can, because this is a lower spot than that other one. So it's loose, we'll just kind of wiggle it to work it off the barb. There you go. This one's a lot longer, so
There it goes.
okay, so let's see where we're at down here. Oh shit. Oh my God. Okay. Well, we're catching some of it. Don't tell the EPA. We'll get it. Okay. Oh, is it not all the way off? Watch your funnel. Make sure that it's clearing the alternator. Okay.
The one's going straight in.
Okay.
Straight across there.
Yeah, so that flexible funnel could be worse, could be better. We'll have a link to it if you decide you want to be stupid like us. All right, so we've got both these hoses off. We have a 1/4 inch drive flexi head ratchet with a 8mm socket on it.
Yep.
So we're gonna see what we need to do to get these bolts out. I'm gonna come around the other side. Do you think that's better angle? All right. Yeah, so this is the top left bolt. It's gonna be hard to see, but that's
It's
the
a bolt.
nature. Okay, that one broke loose pretty quick. So before we take that all the way out, let's start trying to break loose the other ones. So there's another one on the top right. Do you need an extension?
I don't think so. both loose.
And he's just kind of taking note of how tight that was, so when we go to retorque it, we aren't going to be able to fit a torque wrench in there. So
Okay.
let's see what we got on bottom. I think it's on the bottom right, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Now this big hose is kind of in the
big
way.
hose is going to be in the way. So
I'm gonna
we're
pull it back up,
Yeah, let's get that over the actual thermostat.
and then.
Alright, so we've got those bolts out of there. I have the funnel under there just to see if we can catch any other residual. And as you hear, it just broke loose, and now I need to try to get the housing out of there. It's going within the vicinity of the tub, so. Alright. So let's see if we can get this hose out of the way here. Okay. Oh, got a little in there. Alright, so let me get a
As you
rag.
can see, the bolts we kept separate, but they do appear to be the same
Yeah, so it should
size
be
and
a
length.
huge deal. So as far as these go, I want to make sure the actual gasket came off. In this case, the gasket coming through here, sorry, I'm probably not holding it steady. It's pulling out around here. That's, sorry about your car. Probably from when we pulled it off, pulling out. But here it's kind of matted in there. So we're hoping this is our failure, because it'd be an easy enough fix then, hopefully. Let's compare this one to our new one real quick. So here's our new one, which has a nice even gasket all the way around. Something that I noted when we were at O'Reilly's is that these plastic tabs are different than the metal tabs, but it looks like the mating surface is the same. As far as the diameter, this one looks to be a little bit longer, and this piece does appear to be different. So we may do some research to make sure this is the same one, and then go from there. Alright, so we're gonna try to get a little chisel in there and see if we can get some of that old gasket so that we can have a real, oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's definitely a good thing we did that, because that would definitely affect the mating of the new one with it. So we got the old one out. We started putting the new one in, and we ran into some troubles. Now this one we thought was the right one. It's longer here. If you see, it has a barbed entrance for the hose to go over, and then it has a stop. So we thought maybe this one was just the same one but redesigned for whatever reason. Well, we determined that once we got this entire assembly bolted in there, that the hose wasn't going to be able to clear this. So we ended up having to get this completely out. We were able to determine it's not our ideal situation. We would have liked to replace it, but we need to get back on the road here. So we were able to get the gasket out of the new one, put it into the old one. Before we did that, we took a pick. We pulled out all the old pieces of gasket where it was melted and everything like that. Cleaned it out with some brake cleaner, and we've got that new gasket set in there. So now the plan is to go ahead. Again, it's not ideal. We'd like to have a new one, but for now, the plan is to go ahead and reset this one in there so that hopefully this gasket is what was leaking, so we can be reset. A couple tools that we have that seem to help make it a lot easier. This is a 1/4 inch. You can get them in any size, but 1/4 inch ratchet. You rotate that, moves everything there. You have pretty minimal clearance in there, so that helps a lot. And then again, the old 1/4 flexi ratchet that we were using earlier. We're using a deep inch 8mm socket and a 1/4 inch extension as well. So really just comes down to we're putting the bolts in to the point where they're barely mating with it, and then torquing them down accordingly to make sure that everything is even with pressing this gasket. We took a, what's the word I'm looking for, a chisel. We cleared some of that off with some brake clean as well. Made sure to clean out in there so no contaminants got in there. So we're gonna go ahead and try to get this thing back in here now. And let's see here. Ooh, can't hand me a bolt.
Top left.
Yeah, top left. Okay, so we'll try to start here with where we have our best access and
Keep it set.
get it set in there. So that way, I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I'm gonna pull the housing out so that I can see the hole to better align it. And obviously that's not working very well. So okay, so that's on there to where it's touching. I'm gonna stay over here on the passenger side for now and try to get it in here, but with this way, so that way I can
Got some room for play.
have a little bit of room to play.
And look at that.
Alright, so we got in there. Okay, she's grabbing now. I don't want to break the housing, so okay, she just grabbed. She's a little tight. Going a little bit further. Okay, she's snug. So now I'm going to come back up here, these other ones. I'm going to take that extension out. We don't do anything with the windshield wiper, hopefully. Okay, grab this. Let's get this hose back out of the way. Yeah. Screw it, let's just put the hose on. Okay.
That's one way to go about it.
There we go, okay. Kind of snug this one up, again, same way. We don't want to crack the housing. We just want that gasket to be able to mate. That's snug. Okay, let's hop in here. So yeah, we're about to bottom out on this, so let's see if we can clear it. Okay, so yeah, we're getting snug. We're getting snug, 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 snug. All right, that's nice and tight. Foreman, you wanna check them?
You got it.
We got it? Well, shit, now you're making me second guess myself.
Going for the far bolt again?
Yeah. All right, it's a sign. Okay. All right, so we think we're snugged up here. We're gonna try to get these hoses pushed back on here, get these hose clamps back on, and then we'll be good. I think that our biggest struggle has been this lower one, so I think we're gonna try to get it on first. Okay, it slid over that barb. I'm gonna try to pull it from this way. See if it'll go on.
Might need a third hand.
Yeah. Don't know. Okay, we've got the clamp back on to the ridge where it already was.
Okay.
How'd you do that?
I don't know.
All right, viewers.
You heard it here first. We don't know what
Yeah.
we're doing.
So we got the bottom one on there. We'll go ahead and slide the top one on. Nice and easy.
Sure.
That's the way we like it. All right, rinse and repeat with this clamp.
You want me to get the fuck out of the way?
That'd be nice. Can't ask too much, can we? There. Where's the 15 degree one? 44. I don't know my degrees. That's why I don't do math for a living. In case you haven't noticed, I don't do cars for a living either. Okay, I'm gonna try to twist it back up a little bit and then I'm gonna come back over there. How far do I need to go? Get the light over here. I can't tell how far I need to go.
I think that is good.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what we've edited out at this point. So we have the thermostat on. I think we alluded to this earlier in the video, but we have these, for these hose clamps, channel locks seem to grab them the best because you can get higher up on there. But for the angles and everything like that, these, and these even have a, it's hard to tell, especially on camera probably, but these have like a 15-degree angle. Nice long handles, so just having stuff like that on hand can help make it easier to negotiate those in. So we've got those on there. What we want to do right now, we're obviously going to need to reconnect this sensor. We've essentially lost a lot of coolant from whether you decide to drain it, whether or not you decide to do it. So we're going to put a little bit in here before we get too far together. We're going to try to dry up some of the mess that we made under the car. We're going to pressure test it. Keep in mind from when we first started it, right when we got it up to pressure, we didn't see leaking. So we'll probably leave it for 10-15 minutes, go have a beer, come back, look under the car, and make sure everything doesn't have any drips or anything like that. We'll get the pressure tester off of it, put the cap back on it, put the clip back on it, and then hopefully be able to wrap this one up. So we'll go ahead and we'll put some coolant in there. We haven't bled the system yet, but we'll just go ahead, bring it up to about 15 psi. Now keep in mind, we haven't cleaned up our mess down below, but this will give it some time to build the pressure, see if we're leaking anywhere. Obviously it's going to be kind of hard to tell because we already have some puddles and stuff. But all right, so that's 15 psi. We'll take a time reading, see where we're at, and then we'll clean up under here, and then we'll see where we're at from there. So it's been about 15-20 minutes. We took the tub for the coolant, got that out of there, took the wife's bath towels and cleaned up the drip coolant. As far as everything goes, we don't really see anything. There's a little bit of residual drips on the oil pan are coming down. We're thinking that's probably just from when it was leaking down to begin with. Before it was at 15 psi, it was a steady drip, and we were also losing pressure. I would say every 10 to 15 minutes we were losing 5 psi or so.
Yep.
Right now we're at about 14 psi. That very well could be from this jerry-rigged cap system. So we aren't really sure right now. We don't see really, obviously there's some damp areas in here just because we've been working in here recently. But around the thermostat and everything like that, we don't see any evidence of anything leaking. So at this point, we're going to go ahead, take the cap off, put this sensor back in, clip it back in. We had it just kind of out of the way here. If I can get it without breaking it, we'll put it back in here.
It should just snap right in.
Famous last words right there. Okay, I heard that click, so it's in there. I want to make sure that, because we were kind of pushing against everything here, make sure that these lines are out of the way. This hose is kind of bent. I don't know how it was, but it looks like I'm spinning the fan by hand, and it looks like it's clearing that. So hopefully that's not going to be an issue. We still have the skid plate off. We have it jacked up. So I think at this point we'll go ahead and take the pressure tester off. Okay, so we'll go ahead, just bleed off the pressure there. You can see it going down on the thing. This is just quick connect. So that comes right off there. We'll put that right in the way for later. This will just slide off like any old traditional radiator cap. it will pinch your glove in there, so that's always nice to have. Traditional radiator cap, and that fits right in there. We'll get that off and show you if I'm strong enough to get it off. So that'll come off. Essentially, this has threads in there that match this. The real issue we were having with this other cap, and I'm not exactly sure which one we were using, but we were using one similar to this, and this O-ring needs to be deeper, because if you look in the top of here, there's a spot in there where that O-ring is actually going to sit, and that seems to be what's making your AO seal. So this, even though we had threads and everything like that, it wasn't making a tight enough fit because this wasn't going down to actually make it airtight. So this is expensive. It's kind of a specialty thing. You're not going to be able to use it for every vehicle you own unless you own, you know, all compatible vehicles. But it's definitely worth it, because when we're trying to diagnose this without it, it's very difficult because your system's not running under the same pressure. You don't want to be sticking your hands in around the moving belts or anything like that. So I think it's all in, what, around $100 with this and then the pressure kit. And so it's at the end of the day, money well spent, because then for next time we'll have it handy. So this cap, obviously, if you've made it this far, you probably can figure out just threads back on.